If you want more conventional wisdom on management, this podcast isn't for you. Throw away your so-called accountability. Throw away those 80s cliches. This is the On Purpose Management Podcast.
Yeah, and a couple things that I want to touch on there that I think is very, very important. One, you mentioned hindsight. Hindsight's 2020 is a cliche for a reason. It's really easy to see the things you should have or could have or all of those judgmental ways of stating what you should have done when you have the full picture and the outcome in mind. What we as individuals, what we as companies, what we in general have to do a better job of is if you're going to evaluate a decision, you have to put yourself in the position of when that decision happened and evaluate it against the information and the variables you knew at the time. And that includes, and this is the important part of the podcast today, that includes your internal knowledge at the time. We are built to learn. We are built to learn until the day you die, which means that every minute that passes by, every day that passes by, every new book that you read, every new experience you have is going to teach you something new. You can't judge yourself 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 minutes ago based on what you know now. Otherwise, you're going to hold yourself back. You're going to hurt yourself from being able to grow. And that to me is what this podcast is about today, is the idea that don't hold yourself back. Don't punish yourself for things that happened a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, because you were only acting on the information you had at the time, the knowledge you had at the time. Yeah, I'm going to have a little more fun with this. Shit happens. You are going to cause shit to happen. You are going to make many, 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 many mistakes. Because if you're listening to this podcast, it means you're a person of action. It means you're a person of doing things. It means you're a person of trying things. And what we have to get better at doing is accepting the fact that shit's going to happen and you're going to cause it. What that means in practicality is, look, all of that shit you've caused is a lesson to be learned. And you can't have learned that lesson without the shit. So just stop beating yourself up about it. I think, Gavin, you touched on a very important part of there. Don't feel guilty about the shit. Feel excited about the shit. There's a classic Stoic saying, and I'm not going to get it right in the Latin or any bullshit like that. I don't know the Latin. What I know is that you have to embrace. You can't just embrace the struggle. You can't embrace and want the struggle. You have to learn to love it. If you're going to be a person of growth, if you're going to be a person that achieves more tomorrow than you did today, you have to learn to love those things that everyone else thinks you feel guilty about. On any given day, I make 80 mistakes. On any given year, I make thousands of mistakes. And yeah, do I look back and say, man, I wish I didn't do that? Sure. But I love the fact that I did. And it's not because I don't have a conscience. It's not because I don't care. It's because I realize that the only way I am the person I am today and going to be better tomorrow is because I'm willing to make those mistakes, is because I'm okay with making those mistakes. And that's, if you can take one thing away from this, if you can take one piece of advice, learn to love the shit. Learn to love the mistakes. And that brings us back. You can't judge yourself for those mistakes. You can't say, I should have. If you say, I should have, you have to remember that in that context, you don't have all the knowledge you do today. You're a person of growth, which means you're better today than you were yesterday. Learn to love this shit because it made you who you are. Yeah, they should all over themselves. I like that. The should-haves and could-haves are paralyzing. And let's take this and let's transition those should-haves and could-haves to, I didn't. And now what I'm going to do. Those I should have done that should translate to, that's in the past. Now what? What actions can I take right now? What did I learn from that? What am I not going to do again? What am I going to do because of this? Remove the should-haves and could-haves from your life, because thinking about the past in that way isn't going to help you to a new future. Instead, think about what actions you can take today. That's the takeaway for me from all of this, is when I learned to stop feeling guilty about yesterday, what it empowered me to do is take action today. I'll give you an example. We just lost a deal today. We just got news right now about 10 minutes ago that we didn't get a deal we should have. I see that should have. It's a deal that we were suited to help them. It's a deal, a prospect that we had every ability to help them. And to be blunt, I screwed up the sales process. And I have to accept that. I have to be vulnerable in accepting that. I have to look my partners, Gavin and Brian, in the eyes and say, I screwed up. And you know what it's not going to do, though? It's not going to paralyze me. I'm not going to sit here and feel guilty about it. What I'm going to acknowledge is, hey, I learned the lesson. I'm going to get better because of it. I'm going to be more disciplined because of it. I know the mistakes I made, and it's going to empower me not to make them again. Yeah, and tying this back to what got us here is the idea that looking back and beating yourself up for mistakes in the past, whether, and Gavin, to your point, you're right, whether we knew better or we didn't, the only thing you can do about that is change what's going forward. And, you know, you look at some things that are repetitive behaviors in your life that are keeping you from where you want to go. And that's a powerful, powerful thing to examine. Why aren't you changing that? Why aren't you changing those behaviors? You know better. Why aren't you? And looking at the underlying reasons there might prove it's dangerous, it's vulnerable, but it might prove very powerful for you. But if you're going to sit there and make yourself feel guilty about it, if you're going to sit there and focus on what you should have done as opposed to what you can do going forward, there's just a barrier. It's just going to hold you back rather than push you forward. So, Gavin, you didn't want to do any action items, but do you have any other things that are going to keep people from taking this and hearing it?
Yeah, I'll just say literally there's no downside to letting yourself outgrow.
I've got one for you, Gavin. I've got a countermeasure we need. When you start doing this, when you start forgiving yourself, there's going to be some people pissed off at you. You're going to make a lot of other people uncomfortable, and they're going to judge you twice, 3 times, 10 times as much because you're not judging yourself anymore. How the heck are we going to handle that?
Well, I'll say that it's not about that you don't come across that you feel like you should bear for someone else.
So what are you going to do when somebody tries to shame you? When somebody, and I kid you not, this is a problem in our society right now. If you don't feel guilty enough, if you don't punish yourself enough, if you don't sit there and preach about how awful your mistake was, people are going to try to shame you. They're going to gossip behind your back. They're going to try to sabotage your progress. What are you going to do?
Well, I actually think that's a different topic because it gets into things you can unlearn, believe me.
And by you doing it for yourself, you're also giving permission to those that are doing it to themselves. And so by showing your friends and your family and the people you care about that they can let go of that, because you can let go of that, give them permission to let go of it too. So here's another action that if you see somebody beating themselves up for something they did in the past, help them give permission to forgive themselves. Help them take action going forward and not feel that shame. I think we gave them a lot today.
Yeah, I think hopefully in a good way. We beat the topic to death, but we're very passionate about this because this is something that we continually remind ourselves of. We are not impervious to this situation either. So
we're growing. And today I'm going to make a lot of mistakes that I probably knew better on, including apparently saying a few key words too often. That's something that's been told to me a few times, and one of these days I may just learn that.
All right, well, that is all. Again, thanks for listening. Please share if this helped you or if you think this is valuable for anybody you know. Again, we're all about personal growth here on the OnPurpose Personal Growth Podcast. Again, this is Jeff and Gavin signing off.
Thanks for listening to the OnPurpose Growth podcast. Let us know what you thought in the comment section. For more from OnPurpose Growth, go to onpurposegrowth.com. Subscribe here at BLTV for all of our content, including the daily Learn About Law podcast, Seize Your Business, Making Real Estate Fun, and Logical Logistics podcast brought to you by O'Flaherty Law. Thanks for listening.